Okay, so you've seen those like just incredible images floating around online, the ones that like look like they just like stepped right out of a Studio Ghibli film.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like that unmistakable style,
Like
like the bathhouse from Spirited Away or Totoro or the just gorgeous landscapes from Princess Mononoke, like that hand-drawn look.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's
has
just
that.
magical, right? And it's like wild because a lot of what we're seeing now is like directly because of that update to GPT-4o back on March 25th, this year, 2025. And that's when ChatGPT like got a huge boost in its ability to make images using like DALL-E and Stable Diffusion and all that. So now you can just type in a prompt like a whimsical forest creature Studio Ghibli style, and bam, you've got this amazing anime-inspired artwork. It's like having a genie in your laptop who can just make art appear. You don't even need like any art skills or anything.
It's pretty incredible. Like it's made this super specific aesthetic so much more accessible. Like anyone can create in that style now. It's really remarkable how quickly and easily these images can be generated.
It's so true, and it's totally blown up online. Like
Yeah.
my feeds on X and Instagram, they're just full of people turning their pets into Totoro or like imagining their friends as characters from Howl's Moving Castle. It's like fan art on like hyperdrive. It's giving anyone who wants it a chance to play around in the world of Studio Ghibli.
Yeah.
But this isn't just like a fun little trend or anything. AI coming into the art world like this feels kind of huge. It's like a double-edged sword, you know? Like tons of potential, but also some big questions coming up.
I think it's a really good way to put it. Double-edged sword, definitely. There are these two very clear sides to it all.
So let's start with like the positive side first, what we might call the boon. It really feels like AI is like leveling the playing field in the art world. Like
Right.
before, if you wanted to create in a certain style, like, the really intricate, detailed style of Studio Ghibli, you need to like practice and study for years.
Mm.
But now anyone, even someone with zero art training can just type in a few words and get something pretty amazing. It's like having cheat codes for art for those of us who can only like doodle stick figures. Yeah.
Right. Definitely. Like it lowers the bar for entry into visual art in a big way. I think this could lead to people exploring all sorts of niche art styles that we haven't even thought of. Like people who might not have been able to create before are now going to be able to explore these really specific aesthetic visions. And it could lead to all these new online communities forming around these like microgenres.
Wow. That's like really interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Like little pockets of hyper-specific AI art popping up everywhere. And it's not just for like casual users either, right? You have like artists like Refik Anadol who uses AI to like take huge amounts of data and turn it into these like mind-blowing, swirling digital artworks. And he's shown them all over the world. And for him, AI isn't replacing his artistic vision. It's like this super powerful tool that's helping him realize these ideas on a massive scale that he wouldn't have been able to do otherwise.
It kind of makes me think of like Tony Stark and Jarvis.
Yeah.
They're like this powerful AI helping a genius do even more. Is that a fair comparison, or is it like totally different when it comes to art? Yeah, I see what you mean, the Tony Stark Jarvis thing. It does highlight that assistive power of AI. But like, do you think there's a risk that the Jarvis could like take over and become like the main creative force? Like, would the Tony Stark become less important in the art making process? But yeah, for artists who are already established, AI is offering this incredible space for experimentation.
Yeah.
It's letting them visualize concepts and push their boundaries in ways that they might not have even thought of before.
Okay, so now let's flip that sword around and look at the bane. And this is where things get a little more complicated, especially when we start talking about copyright. Because these AI models don't just like make these images out of thin air, you know? They learn by being fed these absolutely massive data sets. It's like these giant digital libraries with billions of images, and each one has all these descriptions and tags. And the AI learns to see patterns and styles from this data. And a big chunk of that data is existing art. And a lot of it is protected by copyright. So when you ask for something Studio Ghibli style, the AI is basically like remixing the work of all these human artists who put so much of their creativity into making that aesthetic. And it's doing it without asking them or paying them.
Yeah, it's kind of like imagine your favorite musician. They spend years and years developing their sound. There's a really specific sound that everyone recognizes. And then someone comes along and uses AI to analyze that sound and make new music in the exact same style, but they don't credit the original artist or give them any money. That's basically the same ethical problem we're facing now with AI art.
Yeah, that doesn't feel right at all. And it's not just hypothetical either. There are actual lawsuits happening right now against companies like Stability AI, who are behind a lot of these image generating tools. And they're being sued for using artists' copyrighted work in their data without permission. And here's something else that's really interesting. The U.S. Copyright Office has said that art made entirely by AI, like without a human really involved, cannot be copyrighted. Do you remember that case with Stephen Thaler and his debut system?
Yeah.
He tried to copyright art made by AI. The Copyright Office basically said, nope. Like, if there's no human creator, there's no copyright protection.
You're right. And the really interesting thing here is what that means for all this AI Ghibli art that's being made. If the AI is considered the main creator, then all these images are basically public domain. Anyone can use them for anything, even commercially.
And this is like exactly why someone like Hayao Miyazaki, who is all about the human effort in art, had such a strong reaction to AI animation. Like a few years ago, he saw some examples of AI animation and he called it an insult to life itself. He was just totally disgusted by it.
That's a pretty powerful statement. It makes you think about what we actually value in the art that we love. Like, for him, art has a heart, a soul, and he doesn't think AI can capture that at all. It's like the difference between a hand-knitted sweater and one that was made in a factory. The hand-knitted one has this value and a story behind it that the other just doesn't have.
Yeah, his perspective really highlights this fundamental difference between how AI makes art and how humans do it. Like, humans put so much personal effort into their art, it can be really painstaking. And it raises the question of, like, what makes art valuable? Is it just how it looks, or is it also about the human thought and effort that goes into it? So we've looked at, like, the initial excitement and some of the ethical concerns, but what about the future? Like, where could all this AI art stuff lead? On the optimistic side, I could see it leading to this like explosion of creativity. Like imagine movies where the visuals change based on how you're feeling as you're watching, or online art galleries that are full of art that's made just for you based on your taste. It's like Spirited Away, but like mixed with Black Mirror in a good way.
Yeah, there's definitely potential for some really cool personalized art experiences. Like imagine a world where everything around you visually just adapts to you and what you like, or stories where the art changes as you interact with it.
And it could lead to completely new kinds of art that we can't even imagine right now. Like we're already seeing generative art, which is art that's not static. It changes and reacts to its environment or even to people looking at it. It's like art that's alive and always changing. And then there's the idea of humans and AI actually working together to make art. Like imagine artists using AI as this crazy powerful tool to like make their wildest dreams come true. It's like a partnership where the human has the creative vision and the AI has the power to make it happen. It's like a buddy cop movie, but for art.
That idea of collaboration is really interesting. It's not just AI copying humans anymore. It's about humans and AI working together to make something completely new that neither could do alone.
But of course, there's like always another side to these things, right? Like what if AI gets so good that it can make art just as well as humans or even better? What happens to human artists then? Will they become obsolete? Like I can imagine art schools closing down and galleries just showing AI art and algorithms winning all the big art prizes, like that warm, cozy Ghibli village turning into like a robot takeover. Wow. And then there are the scarier possibilities like deepfakes, those super realistic fake videos and images. They're getting harder and harder to tell apart from real stuff, and that's a problem.
Yeah, that's true. As AI gets better at making content, it's going to be harder to trust what we see and hear. And that could have a big impact on everything from the news to people's reputations. It's a serious concern.
And this whole AI art thing isn't happening in isolation either, right? It's part of this much bigger global race in technology, like the Olympics, but for code. And right now, the US and China are in the lead. China has a ton of AI patents, like 61.1% of all of them, and the US has 20.9%. China wants to be the world leader in AI by 2030, and they're putting a ton of money into it. The U.S. is also working hard to stay ahead with companies like OpenAI and Google.
And it's not just about being ahead technologically either. Countries see AI as super important for their economies and their influence in the world.
But it's not just those two countries. Other places are trying to get involved too. Canada has put like $125 million into AI research since 2017. And the EU has this thing called the AI Alliance to try to get its member states to work together on AI. But one thing that's kind of worrying is that there's this growing gap between richer countries and poorer countries when it comes to AI. Like as of 2021, only 44 countries had national plans for AI, and most of them were in the developed world. A lot of countries in the developing world are in danger of being left behind and not having access to these powerful tools and what they can do.
That's a huge problem because it can make global inequality even worse. If only a few countries control AI, it could create even bigger gaps in technology jobs and economies all over the world. It's like a space race for algorithms, and not everyone has the resources to build a rocket.
Exactly. And there are people who are pushing for some global rules to make sure that everyone benefits from AI, and then it doesn't just make the powerful even more powerful. There's been some talk about this internationally, but actually turning those discussions into real action that makes a difference is a big challenge.
Yeah, the challenge is taking all that good intention and turning it into actual programs and initiatives that can close that digital gap and make sure AI helps everyone, not just a select few.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's clear that these AI Ghibli images are more than just a fad. They're like a window into this super complex relationship between art and technology that's happening right now. We've seen how amazing AI can be at giving people creative tools and making art more accessible, but we've also seen that there are big questions about copyright and who owns art and the potential for misuse and how to make sure everyone has access to this technology.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, what makes Studio Ghibli's work so special is that it's so human. It's full of emotion and care, and you can see the heart in every frame. That's something that AI, at least right now, can't replicate.
You're so right. It's cool to see our pets as Ghibli characters, but let's not forget about all the human artists out there who are making art with real tools and passion. And the next time you see one of those AI images, take a second to think about what it means for creativity, for society, for the future of art.
It's a good reminder to think about what creativity actually is and how important human intention is in the process of making art.
And on that note, here's one last thing to think about.
Hmm.
In this world where AI is getting so good at everything, maybe try picking up a pen or a paintbrush or some clay and making something yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect and no one have to judge it, but it will be yours.
Yeah.
You made it. And in a world full of AI-generated stuff, that personal touch might be the most valuable thing there is.